William Strafer Gott was a senior British Army officer who fought in both World War I and World War II. Gott was slated to replace General Claude Auchinleck, the commander of the British Eighth Army during the Desert War in North Africa, but he never got his chance. The transport plane he was flying in was shot down by German aircraft on August 7, 1942. This changed history forever, as General Bernard Law Montgomery, also known as Monty, assumed overall command of British forces in the desert and subsequently all Commonwealth troops in the European theater. William Gott was born on August 13, 1897, in Scarborough, England, and was educated at the Harrow School. During the First World War, Gott joined the King's Royal Rifle Corps and served with distinction in France. He was severely wounded on July 10, 1916, when shrapnel entered his arm and leg, and was then taken prisoner by the Germans when they overran his position. Gott tried twice to escape from the POW camp he was in, and would receive the Military Cross for his service in the Great War. The origin of Gott's nickname is an interesting one. During the First World War, the Germans had a popular slogan, Gott strafe England, meaning literally, God punish England. For the rest of his life, Gott would be known as Strafer by his friends and soldiers alike. Gott was stationed in India after the First World War, and upon his return began staff training with the British Army. He eventually achieved the rank of lieutenant colonel in the King's Royal Rifle Corps and was posted to the North African desert in 1940. The King's Royal Rifle Corps was part of the fabled 7th Armored Division, the Desert Rats. At this point, Gott was promoted to brigadier general. He was becoming more and more well known for his actions. Following Operation Compass, Gott was awarded a Distinguished Service Order as well as the title of Commander of the British Empire. Following this, General Wavell was relieved of command in the desert for failing to relieve Tobruk, and General Auchinleck was made overall commander. Gott now became appointed commander of the 7th Armored Division, along with a promotion to Major General. 7th Armored suffered severe casualties at the Battle of Sidi Rezegh, but Gott continued to impress his superiors despite this setback. In fact, he was promoted to lieutenant general and took over the command of 13th Corps when its commander resigned. It was around this time that Auchinleck was fired from his job as overall desert commander. Churchill had Gott in mind as a replacement, and this was confirmed on August 6, 1942. Following Gott being named as the new overall commander of 8th Army, he elected to fly to Cairo instead of driving the 150 miles to meet Winston Churchill to confirm his new appointment. At 2:45 in the afternoon on August 7, 1942, Gott boarded a Bristol Bombay of 216 Squadron for the flight to Cairo at the Desert Airstrip, about 35 miles west of Alexandria, Egypt. The pilot of the Bombay was 19-year-old Hugh Jimmy James, who had been told to wait for a very important passenger. Other passengers on the plane included the rest of James's crew, as well as some wounded British soldiers who were being flown to Cairo for medical treatment, along with their Royal Army Medical Corps orderly. Not long after the Bombay took off, 6 Messerschmitt Bf-109s from Jagdgeschwader 27, under the command of Oberfeldwebel Emil Klade, saw the hapless plane and attacked it. One and then both of the engines were set on fire, and James was forced to crash land the aircraft. Upon landing, however, the 109s continued to pound the occupants of the plane until it looked to them that there were no survivors. This was strange. The British plane was down, and normally German aircraft, after getting the kill, flew away due to concerns about British fighters showing up and to conserve fuel. As James and 4 other passengers exited the wrecked plane from a hatch in the nose onto the ground, the plane's landing gear failed and crashed onto its belly. Out of the 23 passengers on board, James was one of 5 survivors, and Gott was not one of them. Despite being badly wounded, James set out northwest to go find help, and left the co-pilot, a medical orderly, a very sick soldier, and the wireless operator, who were all badly wounded from the crash. He was eventually found by an Arab who strapped him to his camel, and together they were found by a Royal Army Service Corps truck, which drove back to the wrecked plane to rescue what remained of his passengers. After the ordeal, upon arriving back at British lines, there was an information clampdown on what had happened on that fateful day. Following his recovery, James continued to fly for the RAF both during and after the war. However, the episode involving General Gott always bothered James, and there seemed to be inconsistencies in the story itself. James's version of the story did not at all coincide with the RAF's post-war history. It wasn't until March of 2005 that he finally found a witness to help him sort out the events of August 7, 1942. Émile Claude himself, who he had been told did not survive the war. 62 years after the incident, James traveled to Bonn, Germany, to meet with Émile Claude, and the two got on well. Claude told James that he had given no orders that the crashed plane be strafed. Rather, two 109s that had joined his flight had done it. Apparently, unbeknownst to Claude, these pilots had been ordered to continue to strafe the wrecked plane. When Claude and the other pilots landed at their own airbase, they were greeted by a German intelligence officer who shouted, "Congratulations! You have killed General Gott, the new commander of 8th Army." Following this, Claude went on to command Jagdgeschwader 27 and became a very successful pilot in World War II, having shot down 27 aircraft and was himself shot down 6 times. The two pilots believed that this comment indicated that the Germans knew about Gott's death before the British did. James or anyone else on the plane had not sent a distress signal of any kind. This indicated to James that the Germans knew that Gott was aboard the aircraft and that the attack was premeditated. When James told Claude about the second strafing run and that 18 men were killed, Claude burst into tears and was inconsolable. So what happened? The explanation is that an American Army attaché in Cairo, Major Bonner Fellers, had been using a code that the Germans and Italians had broken. The enemy was gaining all sorts of useful intelligence from the transmissions being relayed by Fellers. The British eventually figured out that there was a leak, and it was eventually traced to Fellers. Bonner Fellers was not found to be at fault for his unintentional actions in Egypt. Why is all of this important? With the death of William Gott, the next general selected for command in the North African theater was Bernard Law Montgomery, Monty. Monty went on to lead British forces successfully throughout the rest of the North African campaign, subsequently became the commander of all ground forces for the D-Day landings, and Britain's most famous military personality since the Duke of Wellington. How might history have been different if Gott had survived? It is a fascinating what-if of the Second World War.